Hello, welcome to the Write Club podcast, where we take you behind the pages and into the fascinating world of writing. I'm Beth, and this is Mary, and we're part of the team at Writing Magazine and Writers Online. Hi, Mary, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Beth. Can you believe this is our 17th episode of the podcast?
I can't even believe that. Is that really 17 already? That's amazing.
Yeah, and we've had almost 5,000 listeners from across the globe. We've got people listening in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the USA, Barcelona, Canada, Hong Kong, Brazil, Kenya, Portugal, Sweden, France, Saudi Arabia, Germany, India, Denmark, the Philippines, Chile, Turkey, Thailand, Italy, Greece, Egypt, Serbia, Zambia, Sri Lanka, and believe it or not, there are more.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Are there even any more countries that we've not hit? Because I feel like you've just read out every single country on the planet.
We've also had this really lovely letter through from Ray in Staffordshire. I wanted to read it to you. It says, I can't tell you how much I get from the Right Club podcasts. I'm wearing out my earphones, listening daily, usually 2 or 3 times each day to different pods, learning so much hands-on information from such well-chosen authors, making me feel as though I have found pots of gold at the end of rainbows. Please keep raining podcasts, people, so that I can keep discovering more pots of gold.
Oh, that's such a lovely. That's the reason why we do this, though, isn't it? Seeing such lovely reviews and things like that, it really makes this job so much more fun. But yes, so thanks so much, Ray, for sending that lovely letter in. And we've had some lovely reviews online too. So let me just read those ones out. So we've had somebody say that it's really easygoing advice. I do not have a moment most days to read anything, let alone the advice and tips from authors. So this podcast is such a godsend. And the first author you chose was so calming and interesting. I'm off now to see if she's on audio, and I can't wait to see who'll be next and all the insights you will impart on the budding writer. And then we've had this one as well, which says that we have had a warm and insightful conversation. I started listening to this podcast during the school drop-off, feeling hugely stressed and hurried. And by the time I got to work, I felt like I'd been given a massage. Very relaxing conversation with two hosts who are clearly passionate about writing and writers. It was fantastic to hear podcast hosts who allow their guests to talk without interruption and without rushing into the next question. I'll be eagerly awaiting the next episode and in the meantime buying at least one of Carmel's books.
Oh, that's so lovely, isn't it? Carmel was great, wasn't
Oh,
she?
she was absolutely amazing, yeah.
Good one to start with. I really love doing this podcast, all of it, from choosing and booking the guests to writing the questions, the recording, and the editing. It's a bookworm's dream, really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it really is. And have you got a favorite episode?
I really enjoyed chatting to Amanda Marples. She's so engaging and funny, and the excellent advice, brilliant reading recommendations too.
I think I absolutely loved Amanda as well because I just find her so real. Like she just there's no filter to her at all, is there? She just thinks something and then says it out loud and it's something I mean, you remember when she made that comment about short stories is like having a snog in an alleyway or something
Yeah,
like quick
that's
and
really stuck with
dirty and
me.
you shouldn't really be doing it. And like you say, that's something I mean that episode came out on the 21st of April and like it's been ages and we're still thinking about it.
Yeah.
I also absolutely loved Renee's episode. I feel like she's just an incredible, incredible woman. And James Murphy as well, from an avid thriller reader, I was fangirling so much into that man because I just want to live in his brain, like how he comes up with these ideas and all those different plots. So, I mean,
I
it's easy
found
to
that.
just choose one, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. His stories behind where he gets his ideas from were brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I love about writing and reading, I think, is how relatable it is. Take the two of us. We're so different in lots of ways. I'm in my 40s with two sons, a tween and a teen, and you're in your 20s with a partner and rescue dogs, where I'm definitely a cat person. But we never run out of things to natter about.
So true. And I absolutely love doing this podcast because it is just taking a little bit of time out of our day to just have a chat. And it's so nice. And we love nattering to other people too. So let's get on with today's guest. Sarah Forbes Stewart, originally from Aberdeen and now based in Edinburgh, is a literary powerhouse and the force behind the Lighthouse Children's Literary Consultancy. As a former fiction editor at Scholastic Children's Books and senior editor at Floris Books, she played a pivotal role in acquiring hits like Liz Pitchon's best-selling Tom Gates series and worked on global sensations such as The Hunger Games and Captain Underpants. An acclaimed poet, Sarah's been recognised by prestigious prizes like the Keats Shelley Poetry Prize and won the 2019 Callum MacDonald Memorial Award. Her debut adult novel, Aren't We Lucky, is an Audible exclusive audiobook narrated by the A-list Hollywood actor Nicola Coughlan. It's a toxic tale of friendship across the class divide that highlights the intersection between luck and privilege and asks the question, just how do the people we invite into our lives come to shape us?
Hello, Sarah. Where are we speaking to you from today?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm in Edinburgh and it's trying to be sunny. It's getting there. It's trying its best.
Is that your writing space?
No, I wish. This is actually where my partner works. I'm sitting in a kind of shed in our garden, but yeah, my other half's commandeered it because he works remotely full time. So I've just managed to elbow my way in here because he's taken our toddler out for the day. So yes, I've commandeered the space and I can pretend this is my writing space. But my writing space is more often like the kitchen table.
And have you always wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like I've got this in common with a lot of other people who write. I'm sure you've heard this from like writers before, but I sort of feel like as soon as I understood what it was to have a job, like I wanted to be a writer. And as a kid, you're kind of told repeatedly that it's not a proper job, or like it's going to be difficult, to make that work as a job. But I never really wanted to do anything else. That said, I did work for years as an editor, and I still do that like as my day job, which is a brilliant job. And I really, really enjoy that. But I guess it's still being immersed in that world of stories, being an editor.
Yeah, and how does being or your background as being an editor help um your own writing process? Does it help it or does it hinder it?
I was talking to my agent about this, and it is a terrible hindrance. It's not helpful at all. Oh, it's the worst. I think because, when you're writing as a writer, you sort of have to be quite free, maybe with your first draft anyway. You have to be willing to explore ideas and just see where things take you. You can't be too rigid about it. But then editing is much more about making sense or making sure things are logical or consistent and have I used the right word, all that stuff. It's almost like you need to switch off the editor part of the brain when you're in writing mode.
So, as a writer, you've written poetry, children's fiction, and now fiction for adults. Which do you enjoy the most?
I love them all in different ways. That sounds like a really mealy-mouthed answer, doesn't it? But I mean, I love writing for adults. Aren't We Lucky? The book that we're going to talk about today is like my first attempt to write for adults. So I'm just so delighted that it's found a home and that people so far seem to be enjoying it. Because I think for years I was writing kids' books and really enjoying that. And I always thought, I wonder if I could write an adult's novel. It was, a long time before I actually sat down and did it. I started writing in maybe 2020, when I was, at least 21. No, I'm kidding. When I was like, 40 or something. So it took me a wee while to get there. But then I love writing poetry too, which is a completely different process. And poetry is very weird. I think it's hard to explain how poems come about. They like strange things just float into your mind with poetry.
Could you tell us a bit about the book, Aren't We Lucky?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. I started the book with just the idea that I wanted to explore the dynamic between two best friends, one of them really beautiful and charismatic, and one kind of shy, maybe a bit, unsure of herself. And that idea of feeling like the ugly friend in a friendship is what I started with. I really wanted to see where that would go. And I ended up writing quite a dark novel, I think, about toxic friendship, which also, in a way, is about growing up because we meet our characters aged 40 to start with, and then I spool back through their friendship. So we see them at 5-year intervals until, towards the close of the book, we see them as meeting for the first time as 18-year-olds. So it's about friendship and growing up, and maybe a bit about class and entitlement. It's about lots of things.
Amazing. And you've got Nicola Coughlan, if that's how I pronounce her name.
Nicola Coughlan, yeah.
Coughlan, yeah.
So I wasn't sure. I feel like I heard her say her beautiful name sort of in the credits of the book, and I was like, okay, now I've heard her say it. Okay, Coughlan. Nicola Coughlan.
Coughlan. I'm glad you knew. Well, she's obviously from Bridgerton and Derry Girls. She does a fantastic job of narrating the audiobook version. What was behind the decision to release the novel as an audiobook before a novel?
Audible are really interesting because they do these things called Audible originals, and that's what my book is in that stream. Those are sort of books that they'll acquire, they'll buy them, and they come out first purely as audiobooks. They can't be print books until like further down the line. They just buy them for Audible as an audiobook. And yeah, my agent had the book out on submission, and Audible just came in with an offer and a really warm and sort of encouraging and lovely offer letter. You know, when you get offered a book deal, the editor often will write a little note saying like, why they liked it, which is a really good feeling as a writer. Like, feels really nice. Yeah, so they just came in with an offer and kind of took it off the table. So we said yes, and here we are.
Do you think it will be released as a print product at some point?
I mean, I'd love to think so. I think like there's the possibility of that further down the line. Because we've like this is like sort of nerdy rights talk, but we still have the print rights. My agent has retained the print rights, so there's that, I think, is a possibility, but you just never know in publishing like what's going to happen. So I'm just kind of really enjoying it being out there as an audiobook at the moment.
Abby and Hetty are frenemies, I would say, in the novel, from very different backgrounds. And there's also an older, wise woman in the novel who was my favorite character. Are the themes of class and female friendship something you particularly wanted to write about? You did say actually earlier that it was.
Yeah, they absolutely they were. Thank you for saying you like Penny, because when I wrote Aren't We Lucky, I thought Penny's probably my favorite character to write, and she's one of those characters that almost wrote herself. You know, I just felt like you just wind her up and let her go. I feel like
She was
she's
kind of in the background all the way through, wasn't she? And then just towards the end, I was like, yes, Penny.
I think I'm trying to chat without giving any spoilers in case anyone listening wants to listen to the book, but I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Penny is just like the role model I think we should all have. I mean, she's a bit sort of spiky and a bit bossy, but she's like, you know, an older woman living alone very happily with a full life, and you know, she's pursued a career that she really likes and she doesn't necessarily need anybody. I thought, yeah, she's cool. I like Penny.
Yeah, she's kind of overseeing everything, isn't she? She sees right through to what's happening. And yeah, I thought she was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
We all need a Penny in our lives.
Yeah.
And how has working as a mentor for other writers affected your own writing style?
I'm not sure that it has. I feel like working with other writers is kind of a privilege. I really love that I get to do it. But, you know, we were talking earlier about switching off the editor side of the brain and just trying to lean into the writery creative side. I think that's probably what I have to do. I'm just thinking about that question. I guess because I'm a writer, let's to flip it on its head a wee bit, because I'm a writer, if I'm giving feedback to an author, I'll really try to be as sort of diplomatic and as encouraging as I possibly can, because I've been on the receiving end of, you know, edits or rejection letters and emails you just don't want to read. And so, you know, it's difficult. I think anyone who's writing will know that. You have to put your work out there, but then every writer has rejections. And I try to, like, you know, if I'm giving somebody news they probably don't want to hear about a book or suggesting they have to make major changes, I really try to do that as gently as possible and as kindly as possible.
Amazing. I suppose that you kind of have to give yourself that own advice as well, don't you? So if you're giving it to other writers that you're mentoring, I suppose that helps you when you have to get in that mindset of being the writer instead of the mentor and being like, okay, I've had a rejection, but what would I tell somebody who just had that? Because you're probably being really harsh on yourself and you're like,
Yeah.
nope, sort yourself out, come on.
It's exactly it. I mean, I can dish out the good advice. I don't really take it myself. I still know the feeling of being like, oh, they didn't like my work. Like, it hurts your soul. It's really difficult. That's why I always tell writers like not to read the reviews, because, you know, if you get a really good review, someone will probably see it and tell you about it. Like, you know, your friend or maybe an editor or an agent or whatever, if you're in traditional publishing. But if you read a bad review, you're just going to be crushed and want to like hide under your kitchen table and never write again. So don't look at your reviews. That's the advice I'm trying to take myself at the moment.
What was your original route to publication? How did you kind of start on this journey?
Well, years ago, like almost 10 years ago, I wrote children's books. I wrote my first children's book, and I was signed by a really brilliant agent. She still represents my children's fiction, called Jenny Saville. She's based in London. Jenny signed me, and we published with a publisher called Stripes, 3 children's books, like a trilogy for 7 to 9-year-olds, and that was really great fun. So I had, I was a published author, had a great agent, but as I said earlier, like it was many years later that I thought I'm going to try writing for adults, and that was quite scary, actually. Putting that book out there. I had a couple of rejections before my amazing agent Carol Clark picked it up, and she represents my adult fiction now. But it was difficult. It was difficult to keep going. Even after one rejection, you kind of think you should chuck it in the bin, and it's embarrassing almost. There's a sense of almost shame, I think, is what we feel as writers sometimes. But you just need one person to love it and believe in it, and I was so fortunate that Carol liked it enough to take it on and to represent me.
When do you find time to write, and what does a typical day look like for you, if there is such a thing?
I've got a 3-year-old, so like a typical day is like a lot of like scraping Weetabix off surfaces and like Lego and that kind of thing. No, I have a kid, but we have childcare 3 days a week, so I sort of have a 3-day working week, and in that week I just have to try to jam in as much as I can. As I said before, quite often just sitting on the Weetabixy kitchen table, sort of, or sitting at the Weetabixy kitchen table. But I quite like going to libraries, if you get a full day, just sit in somewhere really serene, focus and write. But yeah, it's quite piecemeal at the moment because life's quite busy.
And what's next for you as a writer? Are you working on something new that you can share with us?
Well, I've got a new novel that it's so embryonic that I don't even want to jinx it by talking about it. But yeah, I'm working on another novel for grown-ups. And I've got my debut poetry collection coming out in February from a small press called Tapsaltiri, who are brilliant, and they're based in Aberdeenshire. So that's exciting. So I'm hoping, poetry, focus on a bit of poetry at the start of next year, and then hopefully I'll have another novel to share if anybody wants to read it sometime next year as well.
And are there more children's books coming out as well?
I did one in September for HarperCollins, but it's sort of is sold straight into schools, called My Granny is a Crocodile. It's not an autobiography. It's like it's a rhyming poetry book that I wrote for it. Guys, I'm sorry, we're talking. I know this is a podcast, but I'm on an office chair that's just started deflating itself. Lauren, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to lower as I talk.
Like, hello?
Where have you gone?
Classic. Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping more children's books as well. I kind of want to keep doing everything. I'm quite greedy.
Definitely keep your fingers in all those pies. Keep life exciting, eh?
Well, I might be able to buy a new office chair, if I keep one that doesn't deflate me down to the ground in the middle of the podcast.
To be fair, I hadn't even noticed until you said that, but now that you've said it, I'm like, actually, yeah, you are getting a little bit low. That was brilliant. Well, what advice would you give to aspiring writers other than buy a decent chair?
Yeah, definitely buy a decent chair. I always give the same advice, actually, which is just like keep going. Don't buy a fancy like notebook with nice pens or anything, because you'll just feel like you shouldn't write in it until you're writing the greatest novel of all time. Like, write on crappy old notebooks with like horrible biros. You don't need anything to be a writer, really. There is a book called The Writer's and Artist's Yearbook, which is very useful, and it's kind of expensive to buy, but it's often in libraries. You can go and see if your local library has it. That's just got lots of articles on getting going and resources, like courses or people you can send your work to. But I'm also I'm conscious that there's such an industry kind of springing up around creative writing. And I always just want to say to people, like, I did a PhD in creative writing. I was really lucky. I got a scholarship to do that. I could never have afforded to do it otherwise. But people should never think that they have to have like an MFA or have done like official courses. Everybody can write, it is for absolutely everyone. You have to be tenacious enough to keep going.
Amazing. That's brilliant advice. And we always like to end by asking for a book recommendation. Have you got one for us? And you can recommend your own, of course.
I've got so many. Recently I read a book I really loved. It's by a friend of mine called Sloane Crosley. She lives in New York, and it's called Grief is for People. And it's really interesting book. It's kind of like narrative nonfiction, because she's writing about her closest friend died by suicide, and that sounds like it would be a very, very bleak topic. And of course, it's so sad. It's so incredibly sad. But she also makes it funny and unusual. She's a really interesting writer, so I definitely suggest people check her out.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you. And Aren't We Lucky is out now exclusively with Audible.
It is. Yeah, listen to it, guys, so I can get a new office chair and not be rolling around on the ground. I'm so full at the end of this, pretty much sitting on the floor.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks so much again, Sarah. It's been great having you on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the Write Club. We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to keep writing. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at Writers Online, your go-to for writing tips, competitions, and exclusive updates. Plus, you'll never miss an episode of the Write Club. Until next time, happy writing.